Ridgefield's public school superintendent and top administrators assure us that they are in a unique position to know what is best for Ridgefield students and their parents when it comes to special education, the alternative high school, and transition programs. They assure us that students in these programs are better served by being separated from the mainstream. They tell us if these programs were anywhere near the high school campus, their parents of special education students would insist on placing them out of district, costing the district hundreds of thousands of dollars more than keeping them in district. They say the best solution is separation and segregation. Is separate but equal real, or just a pie-in-the-sky slogan? Let's hear the lived experience of parents in these segregated programs. Peter Bachman, Matthias Blum-Rich, and Amy Cohen.
I'm Peter Bachman, 88 Canes Hill Road. I'm not related to Cynthia or Sterling, just to be really clear. One page, double and triple spaced. So I'm here to weigh in on the very bad idea that the transition program be perpetuated at Grove Street, continuing to be physically separate from RHS. The three of us moved here in 2002 when our daughter was 13. She graduated from the transition program from the Trailers in 2010. A large component of us choosing this town was the special ed program. Rudy Maureen, you know her personally. So as an architect specializing in design for education, there's no question in my mind that this Grove Street property could be done economically and made into a very viable educational facility. My issue is not that, but the segregation of the transition program from the high school itself. And so now I gotta go back to what I was reading. The years in the Trailers were Maya's hardest years. Our daughter is Maya at the Ridgefield school system, and she was placed in a more restrictive environment, contrary to what I heard on the podcast the other day. Segregated from the high school that she attended for 4 years, in the campus she attended for 7 years. Scotts Ridge, she was first class there. She was separated from so many friends, potential friends, students, teachers, and other school professionals. She lost significant opportunities for social emotional growth, which for many people with disabilities is a critical skill set. A significant result of her attending school off campus was an increasingly smaller social circle with little to no exposure to other young people. The opposite is also true, and that means that in these times, we are continually being challenged to be aware of the real and appropriate need to accept others. Isolating people with disabilities tends to blind our typically developing students to the need of that community, and it will continue as they become adults. After listening to the recent Tiger Talk podcast, I was struck by the comments that the A-School and transition program will generate negligible traffic. That may well be, but it is likewise a statement about the smallness of that community, that isolated community from the larger Ridgefield High School community. Understanding that there are space limitations in the current high school, and some people have some attitudes about that, I don't know. It is a set of misplaced priorities that take our most vulnerable population and continues to segregate them from their peers, as much of our mainstream culture continues to do. Likewise, segregating those who remain in the high school without the distinct privilege of knowing our kids is criminal. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Matt Blumrich. I'm at 76 Florida Hill Road. My son graduated a few years ago from alternative high school, so I know quite a bit about it. He got a terrible education, a really remedial education, and I would say by the standards of our state, his education was an embarrassment. And the reason was, we were told, because the alternative high school is located down the street from the high school, the teachers, by their contract, could not be compelled to come and teach at the alternative high school. So the teachers that came were essentially volunteers who came down. And it was so bad that my son literally took more than one, he took some courses more than once, because they literally couldn't find a teacher to fill the number of slots. They had a music teacher, they lost a music teacher, they couldn't find anybody else who was willing to come down to the school. So At first, this idea of moving the alternative high school to a larger building, it sounds attractive because there were a lot of problems with the one big schoolhouse approach. I don't disagree with that. It would have been very nice to have more space and lab space and all that sort of stuff. It sounds good, but it doesn't solve the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is that the students who go to the alternative high school do not have access to an equal education. They have a separate and unequal education. And that's just wrong. And this proposal doesn't fix that problem. What Ridgefield needs to do is they need to make an alternative high school on the high school campus. It can have a separate entrance, it can have separate busing, because there's an argument that the alternative high school students need to be separated from the population, and some of them do. But a lot of them would like to take AP courses, which they can at the alternative high school, and they would like to, as an example, my son didn't even have biology. Can you imagine if your children graduated from high school and didn't have high school biology? Just imagine that. It's a completely unequal education. So I'm voting no on this, simply because it isn't the solution to the problem. The problem is a real problem. This is a small Band-Aid onto a bigger problem. And what Ridgefield needs to do is they need to find the money and the resources to move the alternative high school to the high school campus. Thank you.
Amy Cohen, 76 Florida Hill Road. And I just want to start off, I think I was probably the initial catalyst for most of this. I remember, going to Dr. Hanaway, Dr. De Silva, Rudy. I met with you. I've talked to many people over the years. I remember coming when there was no one in the room but me on the board. So it is amazing to see so many people here that care. I really do appreciate it, whatever way you think or vote. I'm just glad that you care. I have a few things I want to say. I did agree with the gentleman over there. I also did agree with this gentleman over here, but I'm also married to him. So I have to agree with him. But let me just read a little bit. I want to give you a little bit of the background. As my husband said, my son did go to the alternative school. He's been out a number of years. I am grateful he met his lifelong friends there, people that got him. He also had the most wonderful special education teacher, John Meehan, was the best of the best. My objections are largely the same as my husband. Dr. De Silva said, I read a quote in the press, that the alternative school no longer is equipped to meet the needs of the population of students. And I would object to that because I think it never met the needs. These schools were set up decades ago as a warehouse to get the problem students out of school, and they would not be counted in the graduation rates. It was a warehouse. Nobody cared whether these kids were educated. It kept them off the streets and busy. And you know that, I see you nodding your head, and you know that. So they never met the needs. Most of these students are super bright. They have anxiety, they have depression, they have obsessive compulsive disorder. Some of them are not diagnosed. You see you nodding, so we're in agreement here. My son was extremely bright, was given test after test, very superior IQ. He was supposed to be all honors and AP. There was no honors or AP. There was no calculus. My son was the first student in how many years to ever have calculus, and that was because Mr. Fabry took a liking to my son and said, I will teach it. As my husband said, the main objection is the lack of equality and inclusion. That's my main objection. And we did talk about all the problems. We could go on and on and on about all the problems that school has. The new building sounds like a dream compared to the old building, and that's a given. But it is a Band-Aid on the problem. Okay.
The moderator will take care of that.
Yeah.
You can now finish your thought.
Okay, thank you.
Rudely interrupted.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to say that I did my homework. I spoke with the Department of Education, the attorneys there. I'm an active member of Disability Rights Connecticut and Partisan Policymaking. They do not believe separate is equal. They don't believe in it. They don't advocate for it.
Okay, now time is up.
There is, litigation taking place all over the country. This will be a temporary Band-Aid, but it's not going to be the solution. And I did speak with Rudy about
Okay.
how we're opening ourselves up to litigation. Thank you.
So are these so-called experts the end-all and be-all? And must we limit our thinking only to what they tell us? Could they possibly be misguided? It would not be the first mistake experts in authority have made. Then or should we listen to the lived experience of parents? So is this not worthy of our empathy? Can we confront the ugly truth that separate is not and has never been equal?
This is Kirk Carr, on the record. Thank you for watching.